So good morning. We'll continue with the message of Elul, and basing it upon the inspiring both talks and essays of the late Rav Dessler, and yesterday we discussed the rhythm of Jewish life as expressed in the calendar, in the Jewish festivals, the feasts and the fasts. And explained there is a connection. Because everything in the world really is interconnected. The English word coincidence refers to apparently unrelated aspects, whether in the study of nature or the study of history, that superficially have nothing to do one with the other, and they happen together in space or time. If one investigates it more deeply, we see it's all interwoven. Because the whole of creation, in time, space and matter, comes from one source, the mind of God. Therefore, this relationship with everything that we know and everything that happens. And yesterday we explained here, if you'd like to follow in the text, those that know some Hebrew, we're halfway through this Mamed Elul, the talks that concern the message of Elul, page Gimel, in the middle of the page. We think often that things have nothing to do one with the other. It brings a child, a tinok, that starts to learn to read. What does it see? It sees lines and dots of different types. And as soon as the little infant, the child, knows the names of the letters, can say Aleph, Bet, Gimel, recognize them, he feels, oh, now I understand everything. But then he goes a bit further and recognizes that that is just the lower level of knowledge. Now we can already start reading. And he says that he sees the letters are connected, one with the other. And then later on, he learns there's also meaning to the words. So he thinks, if I know the meaning of the words, I know everything. Then he goes on and sees, well, there's even an inner meaning in all the phrases and the sentences. In each stage, a person recognizes that you can go further. Similarly, a person who looks at this materialistic world, he sees all sorts of happenings. He doesn't always recognize the inner connection, how one is connected with the other. But the truth is that every moment of the constant creation has a newness to it and has a special purpose. And every detail, what happens, is just a part of an overall plan. Now, so to this I want to add that this is the essence of scientific discovery. Both ancient scientists, even the ancient Greek, the ancient Egyptians, but later the ancient Greeks, they began to recognize that their purposeful plans in every level of creation, whether it's in the planetary world, whether it's in the mineral world, the vegetable world, the animal world, and also the human world, and even the human body, not just happening, but is purposeful. And that leads them to discover things further, non-stop, one after the other, through understanding there are certain relationships between time, space, causality, and matter and energy. And they're all part of a total system. And science is in constant search of understanding more aspects of the system. And that is what leads the scientist to his concept that there is a purposeful mind behind every aspect of creation. And when they say science, some don't like to use the word, but others don't mind using it. They say there's a purposeful power in every aspect. That's shown more and more with the progress of discovery. And some say it's the mind of God. And the same also applies in what happens. And in fact, one of the best surveys of research into the purposefulness of what happens to mankind, human beings, has the title The Roots of Coincidence. In other words, a mikre. The mikre is the Hebrew word of the Bible for a happening that seems to happen by itself. But every mikra is a mikra with an aleph. In other words, it looks like a happening, but mikra means a summons. It's something which is a summons, a call. It's a call from the mind of the universe, those things that happen. Similarly, this is at the end of this page, the annual cycle from the month of Tammuz to the month of Tishri. The month of Tammuz is the month during which, in the history of the people of Israel, in the first years of our existence, you know the redemption when we became a nation was in Nisan. And then 50 days later, after the Exodus, we reached the culmination, which was important for the people of Israel, but even more important for all mankind. The revelation of God to 3 million people. The revelation of the Decalogue of Sinai. And we just read in the Parsha a few weeks ago concerning this event. It says there, in the future, so Moshe Rabbeinu says, before the people of Israel go into the land of Israel, and he relates what happened at Sinai, he said, has it ever happened in human history that the whole nation should hear the voice of God and hear what he has to say to mankind? So I saw a comment this week, or heard it also, developed a bit more, by someone who decided he's going to make research in all the religions, all the revelations from any divine power. Has it ever happened that someone who claimed that this God spoke, he gave a specific message to 3 million people at once. It says in the Chumash, has it ever happened? In fact, it says in the Chumash, you should ask from the day of creation until the future. The future you can investigate from the time of the Chumash. Has it ever happened? So he made a thorough analysis, studying all the encyclopedias, all he could find on the internet for all the different religions of the world that exist, that have existed, and there's not a single one that ever related that their God spoke to 3 million people. Like you heard, the people of Israel heard it. And the truth is that those who were close to the people also heard it. Esav and Shmuel also heard it, which is a historical premonition. It's mentioned at the end of the Chumash, where it says Hashem appeared to Esav, to Ishmael, the nations around. They knew about it. They knew that it happened to this nation, but they decided, despite the fact that it happened to the people of Israel, we don't want it. And some say that's sinna, that's the sinna. Sinna, generally speaking, hatred in human life comes from jealousy. A person feels himself, I'm very important, other people are not so important. So why should I get what other people have? And why should other people, they have wealth and I don't have wealth, I get very jealous. And jealousy turns to hatred. Or in a certain sphere in which I feel I'm active, that someone else is more successful than myself, they get jealous of it and start hating him. Or one group has got more land than the other group. This is, the root of hatred is jealousy. And who was most jealous of the people of Israel? Those who knew what they missed. So that produced hatred. But the time will come, very interesting, it says in the prophets, we're not saying that the distant, far eastern groups of nations who never heard of the Bible, could be some that never heard of it, okay? But the others heard of it, and when they heard of it, some got interested, and others said, I'm not interested. And those who were nearest, when they see, when they feel that they missed the truth, so either they accept it and go forward, and that's why especially this is expressed by many prophets, and in the last chapters of the most classical work of Jewish practice and thought, which is the masterpiece of the Mishneh Torah of the Rambam, in the uncensored version, because the censors took it out, it says that this time will come, the first ones who will recognize the truth of the Torah are the Muslims and the Christians. They recognize it, they say, you've gone wrong. And then when Mashiach comes, they're the first ones who want to reunite with the true family of Avraham Avinu. As in fact was promised by Avraham Avinu, that ultimately his seed, which includes Ishmael and Esau, will also gain their reward if they decide they're going to follow the true teachings of Avraham Avinu. So, the people of Israel themselves, what happened to us? We're given this Torah in Sivan. 40 days it took to bring down the supernatural tablets of stone which had inscribed upon them the power of the Aseret HaDibrot, which can pierce the stony heart of the people of Israel, but it didn't achieve it. They worshipped the golden calf. That happened in Tammuz. So that was the time when Hashem said, just like he said earlier in Bereshit, when you saw that mankind, starting with the divine image given to Adam and Chava, they became corrupt, and they went down and down, 10 generations, more and more corruption, In fact, one of the generations called Yered, going down. There was a spiritual slippery slope which brought them from a high level to the lowest level. And he saw, this mankind has to be destroyed. This is not the purpose for which I created this specific planet. Now, what's the specific about the planet? Even today, there's the anthropic theory of the universe, which is that with this vast universe, and as far as we know it, so many scientists say, seems to be that the planet Earth is unique. It would be nearer the sun, it would burn up. A bit further from the sun, it would freeze. It's been given conditions specifically to produce this being called man. Yeah. And what is special about man? That he can have recognition of the mind of the universe, and it's his task to create a utopian existence, a Gan Eden, of this planet. But here Hashem saw it's destroying it. When it came to the generation of the Mabul means it had become naval, it had become entirely disintegrated, and chaos ruled, Hamas, violence ruled, and chaos as far as families were concerned, as far as society was concerned. So Hashem said, I'm not allowing this human species to continue as it is. But then he found Noach. Because of Noach, he said, well, from Noach we'll start the brave new world. So from Noach it began. And Shem, that's the origin of the word Semites, Shem, he taught the Noachide code for all mankind, but still that wasn't enough to change the world until Avraham Avinu came. The difference, Noach and Shem ben Noach, it's true they preserved the Noachide code, which also preserves to some extent the divine image, but it does not have the power to change the human species. For that you need a pioneer who is willing to go in front of Hashem, who is willing, through his freedom of choice, to spread the faith. That was Avraham Avinu. And for that you need a nation, though, to change the world. Descendant of Avraham Avinu. But when the people of Israel similarly worshipped the golden calves, Hashem said, I must now start again. With whom can I start? With Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Just like I started again with Noach by himself. Now I'll start with the Moshe Rabbeinu. After he reached the heights of prophecy, and Hashem was able to communicate with him in a manner that was the closest possible connection with Hashem, and he was not interested in anything for himself. He only wanted to help others, to change the world, and to bring the spirit of Hashem. So he said, I'll start with you. But Moshe said, no, don't want it. I can't accept it. And he prayed for the mercy of Hashem, and as a result Hashem said, okay, if the people of Israel would do teshuvah. So he went up on the mountain again to pray for 40 days, 40 nights for forgiveness for the people, and that was accepted. And when that was accepted, he was able to go up to the mountain again on the first day of Elul, a few days ago. Actually yesterday, but that's the first day of Elul. So, as a result, in those 40 days, culminating Yom Kippur, Hashem gave complete atonement to Am Yisrael. Because he brought down the second Luchot to give a second chance. And when Am Yisrael will reach that level of atonement, that is then followed by the greatest happiness, by in fact introducing the people of Israel to transform at least their land and their service into Gan Eden. So you see this here in the last paragraph. On this page, it says, Hamachzor Shnati, that the annual cycle of Tammuz till Tishri, the content is Poramot, punishment for the golden calf. Nechama, then consolation. When they were then consolation, that Hashem gives a second chance. The second chance means you have to become reborn, you have to do teshuvah, and that teshuvah culminates in Kapara and Atonement Yom Kippur, and that is followed by Simcha. By the highest level, Simcha is connected in Hebrew with Tzameach, the highest level of growth. A type of growth where you keep on growing. You don't stand still. You grow in the world of the spirit. You can keep on growing to the highest level. Lo mikrehu is not a matter of chance levels, happenings. Ki chulam kshurim ze bazeh. All of them are united one with the other, and muchadim ze b'zeh, until they become gilu echad mamash, one overall revelation of the way in which Hashem gives each individual, but each of the individuals are brought into this level, and also the whole of mankind to this level, to become one divine revelation. Are there any questions on this? Brief questions before we go to the next page.
How difficult is it to recreate this divine level that someone reaches during the high holidays, and how can somebody sustain that level? Somebody achieves a certain
there are
because there's situations people that attain
a person
levels
in life. Yeah, well, if it's very, very easy, it's probably not growth. It's too easy. However, you find certain things a bit more difficult. It means you've got to exercise your power of choice. It's just like, let's say, a person who wants to become a champion. Same situation. Wants to become a champion in wrestling, or in boxing, or in high jumping. He knows to become a champion he's got to do exercises. If he does the same exercise month after month, same level, yeah, which is easy. Once you've done a certain exercise you have to do, first time it's difficult, second time it's easier. What happens when it becomes really easy? And this is, well, it's enough now. Now I will just do these exercises I've been taught in my different sports. So then the trainer will say to him, well, if you're just going to carry on like this, not only will you remain at the same level, you won't grow, but you'll deteriorate. Yeah, taking it easy. Once you take it easy, you put on extra weight, and you don't exercise more. So sometimes you can become obese. You say, oh, I'm doing my exercise. Yeah, which exercise are you doing? The one that I was taught 3 years ago, I'm doing every day. That's not good enough. Even for health, some people to remain healthy these days, with the type of food we have, you've got to exercise. And you've got to have nutrition. So you say, well, you like to eat certain things. You say, okay, you can eat them as long as you exercise plenty. So he exercises, but he keeps to the lower level. It's the same applies in spiritual exercise. If you want to grow, that's it. So difficulty in life is sent to us as a test in all areas. That's why, let's say a person wants to, he easily gets angry. Yeah. So he goes to a good teacher, a moral teacher, and tells him, you want to stop your anger, you've always got to count. When you're angry, learn to keep your mouth shut and count till 20, think things over, and calm down. And then Well, depending on the search, it'll give you certain advice what to do. Yeah? So a person, he does what he's told, he does it for a few years. So at the beginning it does help him, because he was working hard at it. Afterwards it becomes a habit. It's a routine. There's no longer any good. And the same applies to all, let's say in prayer. You know, this is the advantage of the, who's better, the FFB or the BT? You know what this means. BT is about the Tshuva, FFB is from birth. Who is on a higher level?
Baal Tshuva.
Huh?
The Baal Tshuva.
Why is he on a higher level?
I would say
Why?
because he has to climb higher to get out of the...
Yeah. The FFB is the one who's from birth, and therefore he's trained in a certain way. He keeps to everything externally, yeah? But it doesn't inspire him much. It's just a routine. Carries on, same words, same brachot, same practices, day after day, week after week, year after year. He remains the same person. Yeah? Whatever, the truth is, whatever good he does is primarily what comes from childhood. Yeah? What his parents taught, the teacher taught, and then he carried on like that. But the truth is, often, such an FFB, he becomes emptied out. It doesn't have any meaning for him anymore. And the only way it becomes a meaning if it becomes a Baal Teshuvah. Now, for this, I'll relate an episode, yeah, that you understand what a Baal Teshuvah is. When I started the yeshiva, also, I put out a leaflet going back to the year 69, when I wanted to start the yeshiva, gave out leaflets about the Baal Teshuvah. So I discussed it with various Gedolim, and Master also had a footnote. The footnote says, what, you call these people Baal Teshuvah? You don't, otherwise I was not dealing here with people who are criminals and you've got to reform them. No. We're dealing with people, like one calls them today also Baal Teshuvah. Isn't not allowed to call them Baal Teshuvah. How can you call them Baal Teshuvah? They're just people who are late starters. They knew nothing about Judaism. It's an opposite Ishbal. Their parents didn't keep any of the observances. Some of them are really moral in certain areas. Maybe they are Baal Teshuvah. In areas, let's say, of moral qualities, they work on themselves. When it comes, however, to the laws of the Torah, they don't know what they are. So they're late starters. Yeah? And perhaps they don't even realize that the Torah, with all its mitzvot, is part of teaching a person how to grow intellectually, spiritually, and morally. And maybe they're already taught by their parents to grow morally, some of them. But they're non-Jews like that as well. Jews have nothing to do with Judaism. There are many non-Jews who are taught to become civilized human beings. And as youngsters, they were in the wild youngsters, and they grew because they went to good schools and had good teachers without knowing anything about Judaism. Good people. So, you can't call these people Baal Teshuvah. In matters of moral qualities, they're doing good work. Because they even know also that if you're a person who's liable to explode in anger, we don't allow in our family. And that's because you've got to work on it. If necessary, someone's goes so far, you've got to see a psychologist or something. And then they say, in moral life, you want to grow, become more. Or there's some people, some who don't care in business, if they're doing things honestly or dishonestly, so it's all different. But when it comes to, they know nothing about kashrus and Shabbos and even about what's written in the Bible, they don't know. It's one. But you can't Baal Teshuvah. So I'll tell you an episode that happened. The Bocher in our yeshiva, the first years of the yeshiva, and he learned very well, he grew. Yeah. He was really came from a secular background. I think his parents wanted him even to marry and so on. Anyway, he came to yeshiva, he learned thoroughly, reached a pretty good stage. So he went to see the Beis Yisrael, that's the Old Rebbe. He was a great, very wise person, very great person. So this going back over 40 years. So he said to the Rebbe, "Can the Rebbe give me advice which yeshiva I should go to?" "Where are you now?" "I'm in this yeshiva Baalei Tshuva called Vaishalai." "So why isn't it good for you now?" "I'm not a Baal Tshuva anymore." Yeah? "I'm not Baal Tshuva anymore." "They want to go to yeshiva, not for Baalei Tshuva." The Rebbe said, "What? You think I was not Baal Tshuva. I'm not a Baal Tshuva yet." What about Gerrer was one, he worked on himself to reach a higher and higher level. Because Baal Tshuva is only someone who constantly works on himself to reach a higher level. Whatever level he had, you've got to go further. And I'll tell you something, nearly all the Gedolim, they were very particular, like even the Vilna Gaon, the greatest genius, one can imagine. And and he asked the Dubner Maggid, who was like a moral preacher, to come and give him strong musas, strong, to reach a high level in his behavior, what he was doing. So I won't go into all the details of the story, but most great people in Torah, they go to a greater person for many of their questions. And even if in the world perhaps the other person not considered greater, but they'll take someone, in certain areas where they feel they've got to make improvement, that they go to him and say, "Please tell me what I should do to reach a higher level," because you've got to keep on growing. So you ask, it's difficult. If it's too easy, then it's corrupting. It's just like it's well known, older people find things a bit more difficult. There are two types. I mean, not everyone's capable of it, but many people, if they will retire and they won't have much to do and don't have any challenges, they deteriorate physically and mentally. But if a person gets older and he carries on with exercise and he carries on with work on his nutrition, it should be good, it should be healthy for his specific situation. And he carries on with occupation, something that he feels he's got talents which he can still develop. Then his old age can be time of the greatest progress instead of the opposite. Everyone's got limitations. Sometimes it stops. You can't help it. So a person can't. Even that's why they look for treatment, different things, but very, very difficult sometimes. If people get dementia and so on, it's too difficult. But as long as they can still be occupied, then they've got a better chance, physically as well. In other words, because there's a close relationship in the human being and everything spiritual, everything physical. Now, so I now like to continue a little bit on the next page, which you've got in front of you, because it continues to explain. The first level is what we call Puranut, which means payment for sinfulness, which creates destruction and mourning. Korban, destruction in a person's life, when he finds also sickness, or he finds one of his family are taken away from this world, it brings him to mournfulness. But the purpose of this is to bring into Leholid Belev Adam Yush Ma'olam Hazeh, to bring into his mind and feeling a certain aspect of despair from finding fulfillment in the external pleasures of this world. Because we generally, that's our tendency. We find great fulfillment, great joy of the pleasures of this world. But this is the lower level of nullification of the reality of the physical world. So it's like this. Who is the main personality? Because this is ultimately the test. Is it the physical self or the spiritual self? So as I was mentioned already yesterday, in fact, I've got a book here from a Harvard professor of brain surgery, and he was actually a brain surgeon. And he had the belief that all these episodes of people who came to him as well, who had meningitis and other things, they went into a coma, they came out of the coma, and they said, well, we met with God, whoever they thought was God. We met with the world of light that we've never seen before. And they told him these stories. There are millions of such records today. They regarded it as psychological illusions. And that was it. He said, no, it's just illusion, hallucinations that people have. There's no such thing. And then it happened to him. He himself had severe meningitis. It brought him into a coma. And in that coma, he experienced confrontation with God. And in fact, his book is called Proof from Heaven, Abe Alexander. I've got the book here. And then he made a website, I haven't seen, where other people joined in, where it's like a proof that you go on living. You're living without, you have eyes without seeing, ears without hearing, you have seeing without eyes, you have hearing without ears, and you know what's going on, even in the physical world, when you're clinically dead. So he said, well, the human personality carries on. It's amazing. Now in life, we always think when we're alive, part of being alive and full is that this world is the reality. And the other world is not the reality. But the Torah says no. As one looks carefully in the Bible, one reads everything more deeply, one sees this is the philosophy of the Bible. So he says, from suffering there comes out the revelation and growth of the inner spark, of the recognition of the truth of spiritual existence. And that's the highest consolation, because that's the opening for Teshuvah. That is the highest level. And then he carries on here. I've already explained before in many essays that sinfulness and exile and trouble is really one and the same, because the content of both of them is the exile of feeling the divine presence. Because the divine presence inside ourselves. And therefore, penitence and redemption are really one. Now, I'll tell you now something. This subject is going to describe further from an amazing passage found in the Talmud. And he follows here the commentary of the Gaon of Vilna. The Gaon of Vilna was very great, also in the hidden aspects of the Torah. And we find, when you learn Gemara, you'll find in the Gemara there are halachic discussions going to depth, which work with principles not only of elucidation of the verses of the Chumash and the rest of the books of the Bible, but also with the exercise and stretching of the power of logic which exists in the human mind. That's why it's it's quite amazing, for example, that the person who won the Nobel Prize for games theory, which is dependent upon logical and rational analysis of different situations, called Professor Uman, was an Orthodox Jew, and when he received the Nobel Prize, he insisted to have all the special garments they give them, to have them tested for sharpness, for him and his family. He made a big Kiddush Hashem. And I saw an interview with him. My son is a big interviewer, in some of the newspapers, in the English paper Ami and the Hebrew paper Kehillah, with my son Yitzchak. He interviewed him. And then he demonstrated analysis. You want to know deep logical analysis? There's some very difficult sugyot in the Gemara that go into different types of situations that could arise. And some to do with the laws of mixed seeds, and others to do also with business contracts. It's very intricate, and you've got to really be a bit of a genius to understand them. And he's given shiur on all these things. He says this is sort of method of thinking that brings you to the highest level of understanding logic. In fact, I also have a cousin who became part Teshuva this way, a cousin who was a lecturer, after being a lecturer in Brooklyn College, in also in what's called mathematical topography. And he was also a big expert on logic, and he had correspondence with Einstein. And he gave out a lot of essays also on the logical analysis which lies at the roots of Talmudical teaching. But also in the Talmud, we've got Agadot, which have an ethical significance, and then there's some very cryptic Agadot. One of the most cryptic, difficult Agadot in the whole of the Talmud Bavli is apparently a confrontation between the great scholar Yeshua ben Hanania, who was also one who debated frequently in Rome and other places, and he also used to help Jews to be freed from different forms of persecution, because he was a fantastic debater. And there's an episode of how he debated with the wisest men of Athens, brought in the Gemara, which is such a fantastic Gemara that I don't even understand what it means. But we're going to see now, in the next shiurim, what is in here. I'll just read you a bit of it first, to whet your appetite to try and understand what it's all about. Because there's like this, that it says here, I'll just read you simply from the, you can look it up yourselves, from the discussion as it takes place here. The Gemara recounts its disputation, pitting a Tana against a school of Greek philosophers. The narrative begins with a royal query regarding the gestation of snakes. Caesar, the emperor, because he was also at that time the emperor, was very keen to hear the wisdom of the Jews. He said to Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, after how long gestation does a snake bear the young? Yeshua said 7 years. Caesar says no, the sages of Athens, they say they've mated snakes and they bore young after 3 years. So how can you say it's 7 years? Yeshua answers, those snakes had already been pregnant for 4 years before the Athenians began to study them. That's why they thought only 3 years. But Caesar did not accept this. The snakes copulated when mated by the Athenians. Female animals in their pregnancy reject the males. How then can you claim that female snakes studied by the Athenians were already pregnant? So Yeshua said, they snakes copulate even during pregnancy as do people. Yeah? Caesar persists. He said, but the Athenians are very wise. They're very big scientists. They will be trusted in the scientific findings. So Yeshua says, we, the Jewish sages, are more wise than the Greek sages, the Athenians. So Caesar said, if you're so wise, go and beat them in debate and bring them to me. Let's see who wins the debate with them. You have a debate with them. Yeshua accepts Caesar's challenge and prepares to travel. Otherwise, this probably took place when when Caesar once came to visit the state of Judea, as he did sometimes. So he said, he wasn't in Athens at that time. And Caesar Or maybe met him in Rome. Probably met him in Rome, because he used to go to Rome to plead for the abolition of cruel decrees against the Jews. So he met him in Rome, so he said, okay, so I'll have to travel to Athens. And Caesar said, let's see who wins the debates between the Athenian scientists and philosophers and you. So Yeshua said to him, tell me, I've got to prepare for this journey, but how many of the scientists am I supposed to confront? 60 men. Yeah. So Yeshua said to him, well, you'll build me a ship that has 60 cabins. And I want 60 seats in each cabin. That wasn't so fair for him. So Dessler said, okay, I don't mind, I'll do anything to see who wins this debate. Okay, I think that's the time for today. But I'll leave it here for you, but tomorrow I'll go on to bring this debate. It's quite fascinating in many ways. And you'll see a certain aspect of it which has a great significance to understand the meaning of Elul.